This is The Voice of Land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Jay Banky.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to a special clip edition of The Voice of the Land. Your Voice of Land clip is sponsored by Vector Technical. They will get the right person in the right job the first time. And of course, we are a part of the Big Play Sports Network and partner with LPV Productions. Kevin Arnold alongside always positive Jay and Peter Tellup. And we didn't get a chance to talk about on the show. We hadn't been on our show for a couple weeks, so we had a loaded show, a lot to get to. Didn't really get a chance to get to this topic, but it was a topic of conversation over the weekend. Yes, the Ohio State Buckeyes did win the Rose Bowl.
Congratulations on that victory, by the way.
Congrats on that victory. But prior to the game, as the game day crew was in Pasadena, California at the Rose Bowl, the crew was talking about players that opt out. And Kirk Herbstreit, former Ohio State quarterback, started talking as, of course, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, two of the main wide receivers for the Ohio State Buckeyes, were two of the main opt-outs, but there were opt-outs across NCAA, and they were having a larger conversation about their thoughts on this. Herbstreit of the 90s era of football, Desmond Howard up there, David Pollock up there as well, all from kind of that older era of football. And they're going to forget more football than I will ever know. But Herbstreit said that the players today don't care about the game when they opt out. They don't care about the game of football, and had very strong thoughts against all of these opt-outs of guys that opt out of these bowl games to try to protect themselves, protect their brand as they head into the NFL draft and try to make as much money as they can and build their career heading in to the NFL. Jay, I start with you. Your thoughts on Herbstreit and the whole conversation that was had following those comments made on College Game Day.
It's total crap. Complete crap. First off, this dude was never even going to make it in the NFL, so who's he to tell any people that they don't love the game of football because they don't want to get hurt before they go play more football? Like, yeah, Kurt Herbstreit, you're going to play in a bowl game when they're meaningful back then, and you're not going to the NFL. That is your last game. Like, after, who was it, Jalen Smith from Notre Dame? That dude was a first-round, top 10 pick, goes to a pointless bowl game, gets hurt, blows out his knee, second-round pick, loses millions of dollars. You can even get hurt worse than that and never even get to play in the NFL. Who is this dude to tell anyone how to live their lives and just assume what their passions are? Like, come on, dude. You can't just tell everyone what these people feel and what's going through their mind and how they're going to take care of their family. I thought that was total BS by him.
Peter?
I agree with Jay. I mean, as a fan, I was disappointed to, not see Olave, not see, Garrett Wilson in there, some of the defensive players that decided to opt out. So that was disappointing. But I totally get it. The NFL, like we say, it's not for long. And if these guys have a chance to go into the NFL, high draft picks, every Tuesday I do a show with Nick Padone and Phil Taylor for the Sports Parlor for Jack Casino. And Phil talks about, you got to take care of yourself. You got to do what's right for your family. And if it was the college playoffs, if they were going into a game that was going towards a national championship, I think that's different. But I don't think that they would have opted out if that was the case. The Buckeyes didn't make it into the playoffs. They went to the Rose Bowl. Yes, it's the Rose Bowl. It's still, an important game. But
no, it's not.
Well, it's
actually not.
It
has no implications
it's
on
an
anything
important,
if you win or lose.
It's an important game for the fans.
Yeah,
for the fans.
Even my brother didn't even know Ohio State was playing the other day.
See,
if it was a playoff game, he would have known.
Well, but that's what I said. I don't fault these guys at all. Not at all. I think they did the right thing, because I would feel horrible if one of these guys got injured and potentially didn't get to play in the NFL or dropped significantly in the draft because of an injury for a game that you're right. Overall, it's a meaningless game. It's good for the fans. I think it's good for the team and for the university, but for these individual players, I think they did what was right for them.
And I mean, all they did is open up an opportunity for young kids behind them. Oh,
Yeah.
how terrible of them to do that.
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive game. I mean, I honestly didn't really miss those guys, because the Buckeyes put on a nice display.
I mean, if they're going out and playing, and I'm not trying to talk down on tennis players, but if you're playing tennis or golf, guess what? You probably should go out there and play. But football is the most violent sport. It's worse than hockey. These guys, you could be crippled at any given play, completely crippled. And you want them to go play in a pointless game and just risk having money that'll take care of generations of your family for a pointless game? No, Kirk Herbstreit just wants his games to be better and more viewed. He's the one with the agenda right there.
They say in this industry, you're not supposed to ride the fence. I'm not really going to ride the fence because I agree more so with you guys than I do Kirk Herbstreit. However, I will say that I understand where Herbstreit and Howard and those guys are coming from. That is the era that they came from. Like that's what they knew. You played every game, every opportunity that you got. When you said that you were a part of the school, you played those games, and those guys wanted to go out and play every game. We have the advantage now in 2022 as we have turned into a whole new year. But in this era, we have the advantage of more information and information that comes in a lot quicker, and the medical information and how quickly that comes in, and all these studies that are done, and the unfortunate studies on CTE and head injuries. But head injuries aren't the only thing. We saw the quarterback from Ole Miss go down and wasn't able to play in the Sugar Bowl, and he's one of the top QBs in what we'll probably talk about down the line as a very low-rated QB class for whoever is looking for one in the NFL come draft time. But still, he is one of the higher-rated ones in this draft and is going to make himself, or could make himself, a good deal of money being a first-round pick, but wasn't able to play and show more in that game, which is what he was trying to do. He was trying to put more throws, more film out there for all of the scouts because it was the only game on. And there's a lot of eyes on football at all times. For the guys that, opted out for Ohio State, again, I understand what Herbstreit's saying from that era, but this era of player understands the information. And there are players that, are only out for themselves and only out for the money, and they probably won't actually earn much more than when they get their rookie deal because they'll play themselves out of the league because they don't care. The ones that don't care will play themselves out of the NFL themselves. I said it earlier. I'm never going to call for someone to lose their job except for those rare occasions like the Kenny Britts or the Dwayne Bowes of the world. The NFL isn't for long, and if you don't put forth the effort and the work and the what teams are asking you to do, you're not going to be there for long. You'll get your money and hopefully you stash it away and you save it up. But guys like that, they'll go blow the money too. There will always be people like that. Anybody that gets a chance to have fame and have money at their disposal, there'll be ones that don't keep putting in the work that got them to that point.
I mean, the league's going to weed you out if you're not falling there.
The league will weed you out. My counter argument to Kirk Herbstreit is there's plenty of players that do care about the game of football. They care enough to want to try to build a career themselves in the game of football and not lose that. Now, a person that opts out in a bowl game, their next game in the NFL, should they be lucky enough to be drafted or make the 53-man roster come an NFL season, they could have that same kind of damaging injury that they don't get to play again in game one. That's always a risk.
And you're going to that not training camp where the combine, and you don't run your 40 fast like Astrod Cherry. He should have ran his 40 so much faster and been in the first round, but he cost himself I'm not getting into the story, but just taking a little bit of seconds off of that 40 loses you millions of dollars. And you hit on it earlier. These people have their old way. They're from the 90s way of playing, the 80s way of playing. Like, well, guess what? You guys used to also be like, get back in there after a concussion. How'd that work out for everybody? Like, just because you did it that way, it doesn't mean it's right.
And it doesn't mean it's going to work in every era. It doesn't mean it's going to work in every era. Like that's what worked for them, because that was the information that they had, and that was just how it went. And I'm okay if people take issue with guys opting out. Like I'm not going to try to convince the other way, because that's someone's opinion. If you have issues with guys opting out, that's totally fine. But don't have that opinion if you're going to close your mind off to the reasons why they're opting out and you're not going to listen to it. That conversation, that statement made by Kirk Herbstreit made it sound like a guy that doesn't want to listen to the science, doesn't want to listen to why these guys are opting out, doesn't want to listen to the new era of player and adjust and adapt to it. I love listening to Kirk Herbstreit and all those guys talk football. Again, they're going to forget more about the game than I will ever know. And I am okay at admitting that. But my issue, if you take it specifically to one player over another, my counter argument, especially with Chris Olave, is if he really didn't care about the game of football and didn't care about his teammates, he wouldn't have been on that sideline during the Rose Bowl. I didn't see Garrett Wilson. Now, I'm not saying that Garrett Wilson doesn't care about his teammates and doesn't care about the game of football by not being there. I'm just saying that these guys, like, you can tell when a guy cares by how they act. It doesn't have to be opting out or not opting out. That does not determine. My argument is that does not determine whether a guy cares about football or not. Whether a guy cares about football or about their job or about what matters most.
I mean,
when you can tell that someone cares is by how they go about progressing themselves and acting. And in the game of football, if a guy like Chris Olave doesn't care about the game of football, guess what you're going to see from him? It's not going to have anything to do with opting out. It's going to be he doesn't get on the judge machine. He doesn't go to the weight room. He doesn't do the extra work after practice, doesn't do what the team asks him to do, doesn't, keep a good head on his shoulders and be a good ambassador for the organization that drafts him. All of those things will run him out of the league. He will be drafted. Chris Olave is one hell of a wide receiver. But him, just like Garrett Wilson, just like the quarterback from Ole Miss, just like any other player in college football that opted out of a bowl game that was not part of the college football playoffs, you will know that they don't care. They don't really care about the game of football, or at least they don't have the same care that you thought that they did for the level that they wanted to get to and the goals they talked about, by how they go about the work behind the scenes to be the guy that they think they're going to be and the money that they're going to earn because of being that guy once they're in the league.
I mean, you watch the OSU games, both those receivers sell out. They don't cut it short. When they go over the middle, they're not gator arming it. They sell out. They go and can catch things that are getting contested. And then when they're going to get hit and they know it, they still sell out their body. A wide receiver will tell you almost every time how much they love football, just the way they play. They're on an island. You can't hide it. Those two sell out. And that's why I don't know what their reason is, but don't assume it's because you don't have a passion for football, dude. When you say stupid things like that, and it is a stupid thing to say, you might cost that dude money. You might influence just one person that might have drafted him and be like, I don't know, Kirk Herbstreit doesn't think he has a passion for the game because he didn't play in his bowl game. Like, dude, stay out of people's business like that.
Well, you bring up a great point. It's not even that they don't draft him because of what Kirk Herbstreit said, because Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are getting drafted, but a lot of the guys that opted out that have gotten word about what their draft status looks like right now, they know that they're going to get drafted at some point. They're going to have an opportunity to play in the league just like they always wanted to have. But it comes down to now that statement was made. Guess what? NFL teams are going to question them on that. That's another one of those questions in the meeting rooms of the combine and in the personal visits.
Perception is reality.
perception is reality. Now, Kirk Herbstreit just started a whole new conversation that these teams are going to have with players, not because they believe Kirk Herbstreit, but just because that's going to be a good test now. That's been put out there for no reason. And Kirk Herbstreit just making that assumption and Desmond Howard and those guys just kind of buying into it and not having, felt no pushback from that panel. They're just making assumptions. You know what they say when you make an assumption, when you assume. You make an ass out of you and me. That's what it is. And now these players are going to have to answer questions like that when all of their play and a lot of the body of work that they've done have shown the total opposite. One opt-out does not a career define or a person define. That if we start allowing opt-outs from college football games to define these players, boy, they're going to have a piece of baggage coming behind them into the NFL that they never intended to, and they have no control over. And that's what I don't want to see happen from all of this. And I hope that the conversation is actually listened to. And again, if you have issue with people opting out, that's fine, but understand that it's not because they don't care. That should not be the argument of your issue with opting out. If you take issue with guys opting out because you want to see all the best players in your team and you want to see them go win another game, and really a Rose Bowl that's meaningless, even though the history and the pedigree of the Rose Bowl says otherwise. If the Rose Bowl is not one of the New Year's Six bowls that's being used as the two semifinal games, right now the Rose Bowl does not matter. It's a harsh reality to give to people, and especially of older eras like Herbstreit and before. But the Rose Bowl doesn't really matter beyond helping young guys get actual game experience like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka did yesterday, and G. Scott, and all of these young players that will now lead this next year and next era of Ohio State football, trying to vie for a national championship come 2022 and January of 2023.
And you just said it. I could understand too, is that they didn't have any receivers to come in there and help out. Like, I don't know if Kirk Herbstreit knew this, but we got like probably 8 awesome receivers on that roster.
And there's probably a bunch of them that are going to go in the transfer portal too. Like,
yeah.
Boy, the transfer portal is a whole nother conversation. I'm not getting into that right now. We did an extra
with them getting paid
clip
in the transfer portal, things are going to get weird.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, and we already did an extra clip for what Herbstreit said. We're not doing. We're not going much longer than this. But when you're good at recruiting and you are a predominantly dominant team in NCAA and in college football, it means you recruit well, and some of those high-end recruits won't see the field, so they're going to try to go transfer and get on the field, just like Quinn Ewers did. Guess what? Good luck to him at Texas, and good luck to anybody else that enters the transfer portal from Ohio State. The 4-star and 5-star guys that stay, they're going to, they will lead that program just like USC's program if they can ever get it going. Texas, Alabama, they will still get plenty of 4-star and 5-star guys to come in there. It's always a rotation. And if you're good enough, people will find you, you'll get on the field, and you'll make a name for yourself. And hopefully those guys have an opportunity to say whether they want to opt out or not, if they unfortunately don't get to play for national championship. But next year, it's national championship or bust, like it always is for Ohio State. Now, Peter, any final thoughts on kind of this conversation with Herbstreit or anything, anything that people should realize about, why these guys still do care and are more than capable of and more than welcome to opt out if they so choose?
No, like I said, I think that they were totally in the right to do it. I understand it. As a fan, I would have loved to have seen him play, but I get it. I understand, and go Bucks.
Go Bucks. Jay, any final thoughts?
No, I got it all out. I'm good.
we got it all out, but I Meg mentioned that the VTL still respects what College Game Day does and, you know, what they present every single year and the information and the breakdown that Kirk Herbstreit brings.
Well, I mean,
I just hope that that's
I just
not.
strongly disagreed with them.
I strongly disagree. I just hope that that one statement now doesn't start a trend with guys like that, guys we respect in the industry, because we all know once you get a big head too, or you say something that's like a hot button issue and you see that it gets some run, some people like to stick with getting as many clicks and everything that they want to go with. Just all I ask from the people that I watch in the industry and all I'm going to give to our viewers is going to give you everything straight, tell you exactly what I see, what my opinions are. If you don't agree, more than welcome to have those conversations. Make sure you follow us and have those conversations at VTL_pod, at Voice of Land on Facebook, at Voice of Land Podcast on YouTube, and hit the like or subscribe button or follow button, whatever it may be, on any of those social media sites. But that is going to wrap it up for this special clip edition of the Voice of Land. For Peter Tellep and Always Positive Jay, I'm Kevin Arnold, reminding all of you, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. We love you all. 3000. Happy New Year. And we'll see you all on the next Voice of Land Sunday night at 7 p.m. after the Browns play the Bengals at 1 p.m. January 9th. We'll see you all next week.